Hello and welcome. My name is Mike Bankhead. I am your host. I am a bass player and songwriter from Dayton, Ohio. On today's episode, you will notice that our guest has a very different accent than me. That is because he is not from Ohio or the Midwest. He is from the South, specifically Tennessee, specifically Nashville. Yeah, a Nashville artist here on the You Could Be My Aramis podcast. It is my honor to be able to present to you the very talented, handsome, bearded Greg Owens. Let's go. But
Yeah,
now we'll do the actual, I don't want to be formal, but hello, Greg.
Yeah, right.
Hello, Greg. Why don't you tell my listeners.
Hello, Michael.
You sound like my mom. That's what my mom calls me. But
Yeah.
do you remember when we met?
Yeah, it was at the CD Baby conference, right?
Yep.
What year would that have been? 2017, 2016?
One of those. I think 17.
Yeah, here in Nashville, where I live.
Your hometown of Nashville.
My hometown of Nashville. It was so much... I liked it so much better when it was here, and it was very easy for me to get there.
I actually like it better now that it's in Austin, but that's just because I like the city better. I get the convenience, though. I was a little jealous of you.
Yeah, no, it was super convenient. And I haven't been to the Austin one yet, but I just saw where our mutual friend, Leslie Barth, I forget what her married name is.
Ramsey, but she goes by Barth for the music stuff.
Yeah, she is going to be speaking this year. Did you see that?
I did not. Well, that's awesome. I got my ticket last year, so I'm totally going, but it'll be very nice to see her.
Yeah, she is speaking. She's been doing a workshop on musicians who want to teach. And so she'll be speaking about that. So I think that's super awesome for her.
She gets paid to be there then. That is awesome for her.
Yeah, right.
The same networking and education, but she gets paid to be there.
Yep.
Why don't you tell the audience what kind of music you do? See, I know. I want you to talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. So I play Americana, which is a huge umbrella of music. They call everything that might have an acoustic instrument in it Americana these days. But it's kind of a mix, I say, between rock and country, more like roots rock type stuff, somewhere between Tom Petty and Leonard Skinner a little bit, mixed with a little Willie Nelson. So.
And you have an album that you released last year.
Yeah, it's called Life, Love, and Southern Sadness. I released in September of last year. It was my first full-length album, and I'm really proud of it. It was really just kind of a collection of songs that were mostly about these Southern characters, these people that I have met at some point in my life. For my day job, I was a pharmacy technician for a while at a little independent pharmacy, and I met a lot of interesting folks doing that job. So some songs kind of are about them and what I think their life might look like or what it did look like. Yeah. If anybody wants to go check it out, it's on all the streaming platforms. You can find me at Greg Owens and the Whiskey Wither.
You really should spend money on it, people. I did, and I love it. So, do you mind if I drop a song from the record into the conversation?
Oh, no, go ahead, man.
All right, so, folks, you're going to hear my favorite song on the record right now, which is about, perhaps about Greg's grandmother.
My old grandmother, she doesn't leave her home. outside with glazed over eyes and watches the news alone. My sweet grandmother, she's so afraid these days. She says there's men outside that want her to die. She cannot be saved. I try to tell her it's just her mental health, but the way things are going, I start to believe her myself. Shut in her house. You can come and shoot him, but you ain't ever getting out. Shut in her home. She got the locks on the door and 6 rounds in her gun. She ain't going out alone. She ain't going out alone. My old grandmother, she keeps a loaded 38. Don't knock on the door, you gotta call before you try and step foot in her place. My sweet grandmother, she don't know nothing else. She starts to believe what she sees on TV. She can only trust herself. I try to tell her it's just her mental health, but the way things are going, I start to believe her myself. Shut in her house. You can come and shoot him, but you ain't ever getting out. Shut in her home. She got the locks on the door and 6 rounds in the gun. She ain't going out alone. She ain't going out alone. I try to tell her it's just her mental health, but the way things are going, I start to believe her myself. Shut in her house. You can come and shoot him, but you ain't ever getting out. Shut in her home. She got the locks on the door, 6 rounds in the gun. She ain't going out alone. She ain't going out alone. My sweet grandmother.
Two questions about that song, Greg. First, is that about your actual grandmother?
That is not about my grandmother. I'll tell you the story real quick.
Don't make it quick. Take as long as you want.
Me and my wife were at a show here in Nashville, and we were catching a lift back to our place, and we were talking to our Lyft driver, and she was telling me about her crazy grandmother and about basically so this was actually before the pandemic, even though if you listen to the lyrics of the song, it actually kind of works better since the pandemic. But we live in Nashville, and if you don't know, Nashville is a city that has grown like exponentially over the past, I'd say, 20 years or so. And so with growth in a city, you also get a lot of crime. So her grandmother was really concerned about all the crime and didn't like to leave the house. And in fact, like I say in the song, kept a loaded 38 right next to her all the time. So I was remember thinking that was pretty interesting. And then a few weeks later, I was playing my guitar, just snoodling as we do sometimes. And that story popped in my head, and I wrote the song.
You guitarists totally do that sometimes. I find it weird.
A lot. I mean, kind of find what you do weird too. So
I get it.
I mean, almost every time, well, I sit down with a purpose to write a lot these days, actually, but it generally starts, if I don't already have like some notes written down on my phone, it starts with me just picking up the guitar and seeing where my hands go.
So you already knocked out a question I was going to get to probably in 15 minutes. And that question was going to be about when you write, what is the first thing you reach for? But now we know.
Yeah. I have an iPhone, so I keep song ideas in my notes app, and then I'll go to my office. I am lucky enough that my wife has allowed me to keep a room in the house for my music room. That was that was not easy to get, but so I'll go to my room and grab my phone, look at my notes, see if anything strikes my fancy, and then I'll pick up my guitar, whether something strikes my fancy or not, and I'll just start playing guitar. And generally, I get a song. What I'll also do, which I highly encourage any songwriters out there to do, is I set a timer on my phone for 20 minutes. And the idea is that if I don't get something that excites me in that 20 minutes and that makes me want to keep on writing, then I stop. But I can't remember a time when I ever stopped. I can almost always find something that excites and inspires me.
Why the 20 minutes? So I get what you just said, but let's go to the benefit of stopping and walking away. Why not just power on through?
Well, because a few years ago, I started doing the Song Fancy 5 and 5 song challenge, which I know you participated in as well.
I love it. Shout out Sarah Spencer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another Nashville person.
And that was really, and that was really a game changer for me because it got me to write quickly. And also because she provides those prompts for us, it got me to quit writing about myself and to write about something outside of me, which has made my songwriting a whole lot better. So I'm fortunate now that I'm in my 30s, my life is pretty dang good. And if I was just writing about myself, it'd be a bunch of really happy songs. And no one wants to hear that, let's be honest.
No.
I wouldn't even know how to write a happy song, to be honest. But anyways, so that's when I started doing the timer because I had pretty limited time, especially back then, to write the song. For those of you listening, we had to write. The idea was to write 5 songs in 5 days, 1 song per day. So I maybe had a few minutes in the morning and then a little bit of time after my day job. So that's how the 20 minutes kind of got in there. I was like, all right, I've got basically an hour. So if I really need to have something that really catches my attention in that 20 minutes, or it's probably not going to happen. Yeah, I've definitely written some really terrible songs. And I've written some songs that I thought weren't great, but then I play them for other people and they're like, no, that's a good song. You got to keep it. Like that song on my album, Love in the Rain. I never really liked that song a lot. The lyrics are kind of cheesy.
Very cheesy.
But then I was, thanks.
But here's the thing. That's a hit. That's a Nashville hit to me.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit Nashville. The production's not. The production's a little more 90s rock, I think. But that was a song that I didn't love, but I'd played a few times on my Facebook Lives, and people really seemed to like it. So I was like, well, I guess I'll record it. But I'm glad that I did.
It's always interesting how people can react to our art completely differently than the way that we do, right?
Absolutely. The other day, I posted a video of a brand new song that I think is maybe one of the best songs I've ever written. But I know that it's kind of a deep cut. It probably definitely wouldn't ever be a single. A lot of people probably, my general audience might not love it. But I posted a video of it, and it got like way more views than anything else I've ever posted. And I was like, well, okay, that's cool. The people are responding really well to something that I like a lot. And that was really exciting.
So that's going on the next record then?
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I wish you'd put on your next record? We wrote a song
What's that?
together.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Won't Love You Anymore. Man, I was like totally blanking on the name.
Happens. It's been a few years.
I was actually playing that, playing it a couple months ago. I think when you re-released it, I re-listened to it a few times, of course, your version, and I was trying to work up something that I could do as well. So that's still hanging out in the back of my mind and should get a release because that's a good song.
It would not have been had you not been willing to write with me. So I'm going to drop that into the soundtrack here.
Yeah.
I hate this addiction, this overwhelming force. I'm a rowboat and a riptide drifting from my course. Feel the pull of the world around you. Like a magpie in a mistral, spread my wings and soar. The ocean is the unrest my heart was before. You came into my world and turned it around. When the stars fall out of the sky and the moon breaks up with the tide, when the sun goes nova with a deafening roar, that's when I won't love you anymore. A handshake like an earthquake, like a plane in choppy air. I need you completely, like a preacher needs prayer. I don't know what I would do without you. When the stars fall out of the sky and the moon breaks up with the tide, when the sun goes nova with a deafening roar, that's when I won't love you anymore. There's nothing that you can't say to me now. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can say to me now. There's no force in the world that'll keep me from you. When the stars fall out of the sky and the moon breaks up with the tide, when the sun goes nova with a deafening roar, that's when I won't love you anymore. That's when I won't love you anymore. When the stars fall out of the sky and the moon breaks up with the tide, when the sun goes nova with a deafening roar, that's when I won't love you anymore. When the stars fall out of the sky and the moon
obviously, those of you who listen that know the kind of music I do, the production on that is straight out of the 90s. It's very Fountains of Wayne, very power poppy. That's not the kind of music that Greg writes. I mean, now, Greg, I know you like that kind of music, but I am excited to hear that transformed into your genre. And obviously, you're a much better singer than me, so I can't wait to hear you like bring it on that.
Yeah. Thank you for the compliment. I'm still trying to figure out how I would do that one. But what is kind of interesting is one of the things that I feel like me and you bonded over it and we talk about a lot is our love for 90s music. But for me, that's kind of what I grew up with. I had older siblings who were playing that stuff. But then as I got older, I got into the more country Americana stuff. But I love that 90s stuff. And part of me sometimes wants to do just a full-on rock album.
Do it.
Yeah, I know. It's tempting.
No, do it. You have a lot of music in you.
Yeah.
You don't want to look back in 20 years and wish you'd done a rock album. So
sure.
Get it done. And then you can move on and do something. I mean, maybe you'll like it and do a second one, but like you totally should.
I recently tuned one of my guitars down, not to E flat like a lot of those guys tune, but all the way down to D. So every string is down a whole step, but that is because I can cover those 90s songs when I'm tuned down a half step lower than them in D. And so I've been playing some Alice in Chains,
nice.
some Nirvana and stuff like that. And
I saw your Something in the Way video.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
It baffles me that song's in now. Like, I mean, I was around when it was out the first time. So it's like,
it's because the Batman,
which I have not seen.
Have you seen that?
I have.
Okay, so
I don't do a lot of movies, you know.
Can we talk about the Batman real quick?
It doesn't have to be. Stop saying real quick. You can talk as long as you want. Until your wife comes and gets you, or your kid starts screaming, and you have to go do some kid wrangling.
So I don't really do a whole lot of superhero movies, but I've been a fan of the Batman movies since the first ones that I saw in the early 90s with Michael Keaton as Batman. So I love those movies. I used to go and see them for my birthday every year. So I was excited for the new Batman, and I didn't go to the theater to see it, but it came out on HBO Max a week or two ago, and we watched it, and I was disappointed. I did not love it. Robert Pattinson as Batman to me is just not great.
No.
I have a lot to say about it, but it's pretty R-rated, so I won't. But what was cool about it, and what I think that you will appreciate, Mike, is the score. The whole score is built around Something in the Way.
Oh, that's like, gonna be dark.
So the whole score is built on those two chords, and they introduce more chords and like different keys and stuff, but you hear that song in every bit of music that they do, and I thought that was amazing. But yeah, that is the reason that song is back in right now, which is kind of cool. Like there's a younger generation that is discovering that song, which I think can be cool. But I was thinking the other day, like, I'll bet Kurt Cobain would hate his song.
He would hate it.
Yeah, I think he would definitely hate it. He would be unhappy.
Maybe the kids will listen to this and pick up guitars and stop doing so much stuff in the box. I'm very much an old man yelling at cloud territory. But, man, I just like people to play music by actually playing an instrument, and the modern production style is not my cup of tea.
Man, I agree. Yeah, like I go back and forth, and I've turned into such an old man. In a second, I want to talk about the album versus single thing. But yeah, I think it seems like a lot of these popular songs all sound the same. they're all pretty formulaic, and they just don't have the emotion that I'm looking for in music, and it sucks. So kids, pick up some real instruments.
Please.
Learn to play them. Yeah.
So I could have been your older sibling because I grew up, as a teenager through most of the 90s. And I remember being very surprised that you loved Smashing Pumpkins so much when we first met face to face. Like, especially coming from an Americana guy, it was not what I was expecting. How did you discover them? Was it Big Brother that showed your, like, put Gish or Siamese Dream on?
Yeah, so I've got two older brothers and one older sister. And my oldest brother I think he's about to be 49 in June. And I'll be 36 in June. So he's almost exactly 13 years older than me. So I was like, and then I have like older cousins that I was hanging out with too. But I remember listening to, like, when I was riding in the car with them and stuff like Alice in Chains and Nirvana, but it was always just kind of on in the background. It wasn't something that I like loved. But then in 95, when Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness came out by the Smashing Pumpkins, of course, that was a huge album. And,
a masterpiece.
Absolutely. I remember that song, Bullet with Butterfly Wings, was huge. And so that Christmas of 95, I believe that album came out in October. But that Christmas, my parents bought me a boombox, which had a tape deck and a CD player up top. They bought me the Bullet with Butterfly single on cassette. And the single had Bullet with Butterfly Wings, of course. And side B was a song called Said Sadly.
Nice.
With James Eha. Yeah, with James Eha singing, and I forget who the female vocalist was.
It wasn't Darcy?
But also, it was not Darcy. It was some other famous
You keep talking, I'll find it.
Female vocalist from that time.
James probably wrote that.
So
he used to sing the songs that he wrote.
Yeah, I'm sure. And that's a fantastic song. The guitar playing on it's super cool, which I assume was probably Billy. But anyways, I wore that single out. I got a lot of other good CDs that year. I got Dookie by Green Day. I got Rubberneck by the Toadies, and maybe a couple other things. But that single, I mean, I literally listened to that over and over. In my bedroom, I just kept listening to it, and it just it awakened something in me. And right then, it's like, all right, I'm gonna make music. And so, started writing lyrics right away, basically just copying what the Pumpkins did. And then I got a guitar about 6 months later on my 10th birthday.
Nina Gordon from Veruca Salt sang on that. We're gonna have to do like a 1995 records podcast someday. Just us, just riffing on.
Yeah.
Because every record that you mentioned in the last like 2 minutes, I love them so much. There was a time where I could play every song on Rubberneck.
Oh, nice.
There was also a time when I could play every song on Siamese Dream, but I forget a bunch of those. Rubberneck songs are a lot more straight ahead for bass because they very much rip off Pixies, which is cool.
Huh.
I'm totally cool with that. Yeah, if you think of Toadies as a Pixies cover band that grew up on ZZ Top, you'll hear their music in a completely different way.
Do you know, I have never loved the Pixies. But I really haven't listened to a ton of their music. Obviously, I know the singles, but other than the singles, everything else I've heard, I haven't loved.
I'm going to make you a Pixies playlist now. That's going to be on my to-do list.
Go for it. But the Toadies, I've always loved. And they're from Texas, right?
They're from Tyler, Texas. Hey, this is Mike in the post-production portion of this podcast, and I would like to clarify that Toadies are actually from Fort Worth, Texas, but wrote a song called Tyler. So, it's important to me to get the facts straight. Let's go back to the conversation.
Yeah, I thought so. So, and I think you can kind of hear that in their music.
Oh, very much.
I did have a song on Life, Love, and Southern Sadness called Here's to the Past. And it's about
a great
woman.
song.
Thanks, man. But it's about a woman who's dying from cancer. And I posted that and I was running ads to it so people would see it. And I got so many comments of people who were like, hey, I lost my wife to cancer, or I lost a relative to cancer, and this song made me cry, but I just really loved it. And thank you so much. And that meant just a whole lot to me. And that's really what art is about, right? Just
Yep.
connecting with people on an emotional level. So that was really special.
All right. So the last question I had was, and I stole this from a local podcaster here in Dayton named Terry Izzy Rock Martin, and I always give credit because this is not my question. What did your childhood smell like?
That is a weird question. What did my childhood smell like? So thinking back to my early childhood, I would say, this is going to sound so cheesy, but a honeysuckle on a summer breeze. Because up until I was about 7, the house we lived in on the back edge of the property had a lot of honeysuckle. And so in the summer, we would have the windows open and that would come through. And then I'd also have fond memories of picking the honeysuckle, and they have like the nectar and eating the nectar. Have you ever done that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I didn't know it was edible. I know what that plant is, and I remember the smell. I did not know you could eat it.
Yeah, so there's this little thing you pull, and it has this like nectar on it, and it's super sweet. So I remember doing that. But then when I was, I think 7, we moved to a more rural part of town, and we had a ton of land, and so we were always outside in the woods, we would say, and I spent a lot of time out there. And this doesn't have to do with smell, but I think you'll find this weird, and maybe somebody will find this interesting. I really like moss. I like the way moss feels, and it's always cool, and I'm a hot-natured person. And so I guess childhood is a mix between the honeysuckle on the summer breeze and the smell of like wet dirt and moss, because I spent so much time out in those woods, just running around. Like, that's what's crazy is I just recently kind of got into hiking because it's something fun that I can do with my wife and my kid. My kid's almost 15 months, and so like I'll wear him on my back. But so we can go hiking in the woods. There's actually quite a few good places in driving distance from Nashville. But so I'm out there hiking as an adult, and the stuff I did as a kid out in the woods, I would never do now because I'm too scared. But as a kid, we would go like traipsing through. We had like these massive ditches. You might even call them gullies, if you will. But and sometimes they'd be filled with water, and it would be like waist or chest deep, and we'd just go wading through it. And we didn't know how gross is that? Yeah.
That's
and
disgusting.
I remember seeing like centipedes crawling on the water, but we did not care. We were just kids, and I used to always say we're exploring. So we would just go back in the woods, and we had a ton of hills back there, even though West Tennessee is mainly flat. But we would run down the hills and in the gullies, and it was a lot of fun. So that's kind of what my childhood was like.
There's a lot of song fodder in there.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you mined any of those experiences for lyric material yet?
100%. I'd say nature makes its way into my songwriting fairly often. most recently, I actually wrote a line about the honeysuckle coming through the window. And that song that I was telling you about got so many views on Instagram. So that was in there. And, I talk a lot about like creeks and stuff and trees and leaves, all those good metaphors.
and rain.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the book, Writing Better Lyrics?
I am not.
Who wrote that? I forget who wrote it. He's like a famous like songwriting scholar. And I remember one of the exercises in there, like he specifically says, like, think of a time and write only like what you like feel and like taste and smell and stuff. And I wrote like a whole page on that. And that was a really good, cool exercise.
Yeah, show, don't tell, and try to make the listener feel something, if you can.
Exactly. Do you remember, I think it was Mary Gaucher at the CD Baby conference. Do you remember her keynote speech?
Very much. I remember she said that was something about how our job is to say the things that other people want to but can't.
That and that whole speech was killer. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube, listener. But she also said, what'd she say? Something along the lines of write songs that come from your heart and people will give you money, which I thought was great. And
how's that working out for you so far?
Well, that's what I was about to say. I was like, maybe not so true. But we're working on it.
We're working on it.
It's all about the journey, right?
It is. And here's the thing, and I know your answer to this. The question is, if someone told you you are never going to make money doing this, would you still write songs? Of course you would.
Yeah, sure.
And so would
I. Yeah, I can't picture a world where I wouldn't be doing it. And I can't, and even if somebody told me, like, I'm not a religious person, but if, like, God came down and said, like, yo, dude, like, just stop this. You're never going to make any money. Like, what are you even doing? I would still try because it's not even about making money. It's about connecting with people.
Yes.
And, hopefully changing their life in a small way. And I think that as artists, we are very lucky that we can touch people in that way. Most people can't do that. Like, most people, like, ask, 100 people, like, hey, have you ever made someone cry with a song that you wrote? And, 99 are probably going to say no. Like, that's pretty damn powerful. I think we're really lucky to be artists. I do a daily gratitude every single morning, which I highly recommend. It's changed my life. But I've put, I think, a couple of times now, like, I'm grateful that I can write songs that a few people listen to.
That is so beautifully said. That's awesome. So,
thanks, man.
I hate this question when I get it in interviews because it's cliche and it's lazy. But every now and then I bust it out. And since you've done interviews for press, you've gotten this question. Greg Owens, what's next for you?
What's next? So, I'm toying with this idea of doing an EP called Fathers and Sons. Last year, I became a father for the first time, and I also lost my father. Both were, obviously pretty huge moments in my life, and it was really weird losing my dad just 4 months after I became a father. And so that's touched me really deeply. And I've been writing some songs that had to do with both of those things. And I thought it would be a cool concept album.
I know a song that is going to break your heart. and I'm going to send it to you when we're done.
Break my heart. I love it.
It's from one of my favorite bands, and the singer is writing a song to his son, and he had just lost his dad. So the situation is exactly your situation. And I don't have any children, but my dad did die in 2017. So the situation's the same as yours. And you were gonna, the song breaks my heart. I don't even have a kid. So you were gonna relate to this song so strongly.
I gotta hear this song.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I don't want to tell the listeners what it is. I might put it in the show. I'll put it in the show notes. I won't name it, but I'll link to it in the show notes. But I'll send you that shortly after we're done, and then you can tell me if it made you cry. And if it did, then he did the job, right?
I've never been more excited to be sad.
Sometimes being sad is we need it sometimes, right?
No doubt. Yeah, I think so.
Hey, so I know you're a busy dude. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this, especially since I was horribly late. We will do this again. You're going on my repeat guest list, and the next time we'll prepare with like a bunch of 1995 records and just go.
Oh.
No one that doesn't. The people that don't like 90s music are totally going to skip that one, but that's okay. We'll have fun.
I would love that. Yeah. Eventually I want to start my own podcast too.
You should. You're friendly. You have interesting things to say. You have a great, your voice is, you would be good at it.
I just, it's a time thing right now, having a child, he's at daycare all day. And of course I've got my day job, so I don't see him. I see him just a little bit in the morning, but then he doesn't get home from daycare till 5:15, and he goes to bed at 7. So I don't have a ton of time to hang out with him at night. So when he is home, I try to hang out with him. So
that's smart.
My time for music is limited, but I think a podcast would be a lot of fun. And I am so excited that you've been doing this podcast. I have enjoyed every episode that I've listened to.
Well, thanks. I will tell you that I like to say that I'm complying with my doctor. Last fall, when I was just at a super low point, my primary care physician says, you need to have a meaningful conversation every day with someone who is not your wife. So on
awesome.
On the days that I get to have a podcast chat, I consider that I'm following doctor's orders.
Nice. I love it, man. And I think you're great at it too, and I enjoy talking to you. And we should talk more. Even if
we
it's
really
not
should.
Recorded.
We're totally friends, and we really, life gets in the way.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Thank you once again to Greg Owens for joining me on the podcast. Dear listener, you really should check out his music. There'll be links in the show notes, but if you're on your phone or don't have the time to look right now, it is Greg Owens and the Whiskey Weather, wherever you stream music. Thank you, dear listener, for being here with me today on the You Could Be My Aramis podcast. I'd really appreciate it if you would like or add a comment or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And to take you out the day, well, we're going to listen to another Greg Owens song. Here's to the past.
She hears the phone ring, but she's afraid to answer. She'll wait for a second call. She's not a delicate person. She can see the signs, and she knows it's all her fault. She takes the drag from a burning cigarette, inhales it like it might be her last. She pours a bottle of bourbon from the cupboard to the past. She fills her days with regrets and reasoning, thoughts of when she was a girl, running a brush through her hair. She watches it fall to the floor. She remembers a much brighter world. She takes a drag from a burning cigarette, inhales it like it might be her last. She pours a bottle of bourbon from the cupboard and pours herself a glass. She says, I ain't got no future. So here's to the past. She don't know where the time went. She never gave it much thought. But now she's flailing her fists in the air, screaming, is that all you got? She takes a drag from a burning cigarette, inhales it and knows it's her last. She pulls a bottle of bourbon from underneath the hospital bed and puts her lips up to the glass. She says, I ain't got no future. I ain't got no future. I ain't got no goddamn future. So here's to the past. So here's to the past.